Hey, welcome, welcome. My name is Damon Brown. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV. I so appreciate y'all. I am an entrepreneurial coach. I help a lot of folks like y'all that are doing side hustles, particularly what I call non-traditional entrepreneurs. So if you got kids at home or other people that are dependent on you, like older parents, what have you, I relate to it. I respect that. If you're trying to build your business and build from now, even though you have a full time job during the day, you're trying to juggle different things, which again, I respect, then this is the place for you. This is your home. This episode 455. We're live today. We've been doing this for the last few years. I so appreciate y'all coming through. You can go ahead and watch Bring Your Worth TV on Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I'm here in Las Vegas. It's about 100 degrees today, which is pretty mild for August. Believe it or not, I think we're going to get some rain. So if you hear any noise outside, it's just the rain outside, which we desperately, desperately need. Yeah, but you can go ahead and subscribe. All the links are below, whether you're watching on Twitch, you're watching on Blue Sky, or watching on LinkedIn, or watching, blah, 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 get the words out, watching on the home network over at YouTube. You can just go to bringyourworth.tv and hook it up. You can subscribe anywhere that you see fit. And of course, connect with me on the social media platforms. My latest book is called The Complete Bring Your Worth Collection. You can see it right above my big head, right next to my relatives in black and white up there. And it is a collection of the best-selling books over the last oh my gosh. I think the first book goes back about 10 years, around the time my second son was born, which is crazy because he just turned 10. So that's how I know, but it's contains the original Bites as Entrepreneur trilogy, which y'all made a bestseller. Thank you, as well as contains Bring Your Worth, which is of course, the eponymous title of this show, as well as my personal favorite, Build From Now: How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. It's all in there. It's a gift to y'all. If you want to listen to it for free, as far as the audiobook, and it's quite a journey. Again, it's three packed books, and you're trying to level up your game. You can go and listen to it for free at this channel. You'll be supporting the channel, and you also be able to listen for free. All the links are below. There's also some great sponsors, including Bankrate and other folks that have helped make this possible. All the links are below. Most of them are free. Go and click on them, and then you'll be able to give some good support for this network. Again, been doing it for about 5.5 years. It'll be 6 years in December as of this recording, which is amazing. So I wouldn't be able to do it without y'all. So I appreciate y'all coming through and all the ups and downs of life. Speaking of that, what we're going to talk about today is how to handle grief well. Not just handle grief, handle grief well. I don't know why I have the pregnant pause there, but it sounded way more dramatic. And give yourself grace. How to handle grief well and give yourself grace. You can see the gray hairs. I have a little bit more gray hairs than you probably last when you last saw me. And if you have gray hairs, if you've been on Earth or whatever planet you're on for any period of time, grief is part of that. It could be the loss of your job. It could be the loss of a relationship. It could be a loss of a loved one, like they're not here anymore. I've experienced all of them, and you got my sympathy. A lot of people that I care about are going through a lot of grief right now, including myself. And there's loss and there's challenges. I feel like that, like spiritually, and even as far as in the physical world, we're going through so much loss and so much questioning of our beliefs and what are we really into, what do we really care about, and all that really matters. All that really matters. And I think there's a deeper level to that. I think of what makes it heavier is when we don't know how to grieve properly, not from a place of judgment, but simply from a place of us not necessarily having the tools. For some of us, particularly if we're of certain communities, if we're dealing with certain things, we might not have gotten the guidance to do that. Like I remember, I'm a big proponent of therapy. You probably see, if you've been watching it for a little while, you probably see my favorite shirt from Charmaine Jackman, Dr. Charmaine Jackman. Hope you're doing well. That I got from her a few years ago, and all it says is "get you a therapist," and very much in the colloquial language of African Americans. But the basic idea of that is like get the support that you need. whether it's free therapy through different organizations. Shout out to y'all that are providing that. Or if you're, like myself, where you're able to have the resources or put aside the resources to get support, professional support for that. And I remember when I first started getting into therapy as an adult, and I talked to a relative about it. And I was like, hey, I found a good therapist. And it's really hard as African American male. There's not a lot of African American and particularly male therapists that are available and have their appointment book open. And I remember the relative, like I was on the phone. I remember the relative pausing and being like, "Are you okay?" Like it was equivalent of me saying I was going to check myself into a mental institution. And I have people that I care about so much that deal with mental illness and challenges and stuff like that. So there's nothing wrong with that. But my relative was talking to me as if it was that extreme, as if I was like checking myself in. And I'm like, no, no, I'm going through this major transition. I can't remember what the transition was. This was years ago. I'm going through this major transition, and I want to have some support. And so with that support, I want to make sure that I can I can function in a way. This is even before I had kids. So it wasn't even about them. I wasn't even married yet. So it's like I just want to make sure that I can function well. So I figured they would be excited for that as I was, but they were not. Years later, we talk about it, and I don't even bring up the occasion, but we'll talk about it, and then they'll consider therapy just a normal part of the process of going through um, challenges and transition and giving yourself grace. That growth is fantastic. So I think there's a great opportunity for us to learn how to do this better. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today, as well as the second part about that, which is giving yourself grace. And grace, I love that term. It's not a person, it's not a religious thing as far as, giving grace before you eat. It's actually giving yourself grace as far as giving yourself room. If you're going through a heavy transition, if you're going through a lot of loss, that's a lot. Giving yourself grace means that if you're usually able to handle your work project in 5 hours, it might take you 10 hours now. If you're usually happy most of the time, maybe you'll be sad a percentage of the time now. Maybe you'll need to sleep in a little bit. Maybe there's certain ways where you need to give yourself that space that you need because there's a whole nother level of transition, a whole nother level of consciousness, a whole nother other level of work that's being done under the surface. And when we have a tragedy such as a death or a divorce or the end of a friendship, we look at that often, and myself included, as okay, there's a beginning and end to it. Okay, it's over. Okay, move on with our lives. But that's not how emotions work. I don't think that's how our brains work because there's a certain amount of reliving that trauma and those challenges. There's a certain processing that needs to happen to handle that grief. While you're doing that processing, you need to give yourself grace, to give yourself time to take, it's going to take a little bit longer to you to get back into your quote unquote normal life. And if you're dealing with any of those things, which I've dealt with all of them, your normal life might not be available anymore. So it's not just a matter of you transitioning back into into normal life. Sometimes it's about saying, what is the new normal? Because a lot of things that we grieve, they're a one-way street. When someone passes away, and I respect reincarnation, but they're not going to come back anytime soon. We're not going to be hanging out later. They're gone. So giving yourself grace when there's moments that are one way and they're fixed, and processing the things that come along with that. So we're going to be talking about that today, hopefully giving some insight as far as you be able to do some work related to that, and not only to give yourself, to grieve well, and also to give yourself grace, but also to give it to other people. And we'll talk about that briefly as well. If you have any thoughts, any comments, any feedback, excuse me, feel free to jump into the comments. Love to hear questions. I'm also a professional speaker and I've been on some of the stages and stuff like that. So I'm excited to get Q&A from the folks I'm talking to. In fact, I wish we were in person right now, but that's how it works, in our in our global world. So I'm just happy that y'all are hanging out right now. I have a newsletter at joindamon.me. It's free. It's also how you can help support the channel. It's a weekly newsletter that comes out every Wednesday morning. In fact, if you're watching this live, you get the newsletter, you would have gotten it around 5:55 a.m. this morning, Vegas time, as I always talk about. And one of the recent newsletters was talking about depth over width. Depth over width. I love this concept that I've been playing with a lot. And one of the things I say in the newsletter, which is again linked right below my big head, is the danger isn't being busy. The danger is mistaking weight for depth. The danger isn't being busy. It's like, oh, I'm so busy. I have so much stuff on my plate. I need to learn how to manage it more. The danger is mistaking weight for depth. In the newsletter, I talk about it being like a buffet. And you get to a buffet, you're starving. I live in Las Vegas, so one of the lands of the buffets. And and so you fill up your plate, you fill up your plate, you fill up your plate, and then you're like, wow, I got too much food. Let me make some space on the plate. But then the plate feels too light. So then before you know it, you're adding more stuff to it because you're used to a certain weight. In other words, if we're used to being busy, particularly when it pertains to grief or mourning or going through heavy change and transition, there's a lot of shows, episodes about change and transition over at bringyourworth.tv. You can subscribe below and you won't miss an episode, or you can go to bringyourworth.tv at your respective platform, and you can catch some of those episodes over the past year or two. But if you're dealing with change, transition, and grief and loss, which at the end of the day is just change and transition, it's just a change and transition that we don't like. If you're dealing with that, then it's way easier, way easier. I've coached hundreds of entrepreneurs over the last, say, 10 or so years that I've been a coach. And we have a pattern. Our pattern is that we're used to the pattern that we had before. We're used to that inertia. If we're doing 80-hour weeks, which some of us have, including myself. I've told other stories about my life in the startup world, my last startup, Cuddler. Or if you're doing 80 hour weeks and you realize you're burning out, or you have some major personal or career transition, and it's something that you don't like or something that you're grieving, how easy would it be for you to maybe lay off on those 80 hours for a week or two while you go to the memorial or while you go and look for a new job or whatever the case may be? But how long will it take before you get back to what you were used to? In other words, when you have a busy calendar, it's easy to look at it and say, I'm getting a lot done. What I'm doing is really important. And for a lot of us, that's related to worth. Like that means I'm important. Like I'm on top of it. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, that doesn't necessarily mean that. In other words, the worth as far as what you do, the worth as far as what you say, that's not related to how productive, quote unquote, you're being, or how you can barely catch a breath. Earlier in the episode, we were talking about things we learn from our culture, things we learn from our family, things that we learn from our particular leanings, things we learn from our family, or our friends, I mean, who we consider family. At least I do. And sometimes it's easy to take those badges. So one of the things that's been happening is I've been processing my grief where I went through a rough breakup, and I've had people close to me pass away over the last year or two. I've had people that I care about a lot who had close loved ones pass away just recently, a few of them this year. It's been so much heavy transition, so much heavy transition. And one of the things that I had to watch for myself is to say, look, you're going through all these different things. The people that you love are going through all these different things. And of course, you care about them. So it's like you're going through, you're supporting them, because they're part of my support network. The things that you normally do, the things that ways that you would normally handle things isn't going to work. Up until about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was doing at least one book a year. That had to stop. It wasn't. depth over width. What do I really want to spend my time with? Grinding it out and pushing all this stuff out, which I love my books. Again, I mentioned them at the top of the show. You can listen to the audiobook right now with most of the books in the collection with the complete Bring Your Worth collection. I'm proud of the work. I'm proud of the impact that I made on literally tens of thousands of y'all, which I humbly accept that I was able to make that impact. But if that didn't fit anymore, then where do I really want to go deep on? And for a good decade, I was going deep on the books. Now I go deep on the one on one coaching. I go deep on the consulting behind the scenes. I go deep on the ghostwriting and the public speaking support that I give to people behind the scenes who are trying to make an impact in the world. I go deep on this channel. That's a choice. When we talk about width, that means we're trying to do everything. That's not compatible with grieving. That's not compatible with transitions. It doesn't work. What I encourage you to do, and maybe you're not going through a period of grief and or change and transition, even better, I would suggest you call away what really matters to you now because life happens. The wheel of fortune spins. That's how it works. People pass, relationships end, friendships stop. That's kind of how it works. So if we already know that, then why wait until you're going through a period of grief or a period of heavy change and transition to suddenly change your life? That doesn't make any sense. You know it's coming. If you had a moment right now to say, this is what I want to go deep on, these are the three things that matter to me, why waste time? I go through this process regularly. And even I, with all the change and transition over the last couple of years, was like, oh, wait, that doesn't matter to me as much as I thought it did. If I only have this much energy, this much time, this much effort and resources, then where do you want to put your time? That in itself is giving yourself grace. That in itself is grieving well. Because luckily, I was just able to drop off a little bit of my life, not the whole thing, because a lot of it was structured about the things I care about, including spending time with y'all. Hence episode 455, right? I made those decisions early on. So when I did have those changes, those ups and downs, then I was able to just change a little bit, just make a little bit of room to give myself grace. Part of that was running my own business. I run a few of them. So if I was having a down day or if I needed to work things out, I had the space to do so. How could you give yourself more room by going deep on a few things instead of everything? How can you actually make yourself less busy because you're being more busy with fewer things? That's the newsletter. Be sure and check it out. It's at joindamon.me. It's free. It's every Wednesday. And it ties into there for sure. One of my favorite quotes on grief. I love this. I love this. And let me put a tag down there. What I love. Grief is love without with nowhere to go. Without nowhere to go. That's funny. I even made it funnier. Grief is love without nowhere with nowhere to go. See, I almost did it again. Grief is love with nowhere to go. I think I've heard it both ways, and that's why I keep tongue twisting on it. Think about being in love with someone, whether it was a partner or a crush. Going old school for a second. Think like high school. Or being in love with a family member. I got kids. I know what it's like to be in love with the people that you made, the people that you ushered into this life. There's nothing like it, to have a new niece or new nephew. Like, that's being in love too. So, what happens then, God forbid, and also it's a part of life, when that cycle stops? Grief is love without somewhere to go. And you can't deliver it to them. You can deliver it to, the cemetery, to the grave, to their urn. You can, have a little altar to them. My grandmother's up there, rest in peace, where you think about them every day, as far as the picture with her and her brothers and sisters above my head. But you can't get a hug. You can't give them a kiss on the cheek. You can't rock them to sleep. You can't hold their hand. So then the question is, what are you going to do with that love? Not with that grief, but what are you going to do with that love? What can you pour it into? I was talking to a friend recently. You know who you are. And we were talking about how so much amazing art comes from pain. It comes from love not having a place to go. So it goes into our books, all 27 of them for me. It goes into the art that's on the wall. And if you've seen previous episodes, I love art and always have it on my walls. It goes into our music. I love music. It goes into our creating. It goes into motivating other people, as hopefully I've had a small part of your life. So the love doesn't go away, which means the grief doesn't go away. There's people that I lost years ago, and I still shed tears for them. I truly do. But what are you gonna do with that grief? What are you gonna do with that love? It's like water that sits there too long. And water that sits there too long, what happens? It starts to grow mold. It starts to get toxic. It eats itself. It's stagnant. Where else could you pour this stuff into? Where else could it go? Grief is love with nowhere to go. So as you're listening to me or watching me in the future, or if you're hanging out live right now, if you're going through grieving, if you have love that has nowhere to go, how can you turn that into action? Not bitter action, but just action. Where can you volunteer? Where can you give your resources? What art, what thing can you create that is in memory and that captures the essence of what you freaking lost? My loved ones who are not here anymore, they're in the books. Sometimes literally, as far as dedications, not literally that way, but as far as dedications, as far as the stories that I tell, as far as me providing to you, my community, the same thing that they provided to me. I'm passing it on. At the end of the day, we're just a chain, right? Again, when you get to my age, you start to realize, oh yeah, I'm just a cog in the wheel, and I mean that in the best way possible. I'm just another link in the chain. I'm the link between my parents and my kids. Nothing more, nothing less. So, what love were you pouring into that career, that partner, that child, that whatever that you lost? What were you pouring into it, and what was it giving you back? That way that it impacted you, you can you can recycle that. You can reuse that. Their love didn't go away. In fact, you, as the quote argues, which I wish I knew who said the quote, but as the quote argues, that's kind of the point. Your pain doesn't come from, oh yeah, this loved one or this loved opportunity is gone. No, the pain comes from you still having love. You just don't know where to put it. Where can you put it? Heavy stuff. Today we're talking about how you can grieve well and how you can give yourself grace. My name is Damon Brown. I'm an entrepreneurial coach. You can reach me at damonbrown.net, and you can check in with the show. We have live episodes. We have recorded episodes. You guys have been enjoying both, which I appreciate. Wednesdays, 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can watch at bringyourworth.tv. That's the main channel, or you can catch it on some other platforms that you might be watching on right now. Yeah. How are you redirecting the grief and therefore the love that you have for something that you can't have anymore, that you can't connect with anymore? I'd love to hear it in the comments. Let me know because I'm always curious about how we transition from one piece to another. And it's not always easy. Trust me on that one. My favorite book right now. Oh my gosh. Shout out to Colette over in Ireland. Love you and appreciate you. We had connected earlier this year abroad, and she had highly recommended this book. She recommended it so hard, but she sent it to me. She's like, no, 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 I will send it to you all the way from Ireland. So shout out to you. Love you, Colette. Hope you're doing wonderful. This is from John Donahue. Sorry, my light is lighting today. It's from John Donahue. It's Anam, Cara. Yeah, you can tell my Irish roots are there, but they're way in the back, if you know what I mean. So I don't know how to pronounce this. Spiritual wisdom from the Celtic world. John Donahue. I believe he passed away a few years ago. There's a 25th anniversary edition, but this came out several years ago. I think it's 30 years old now. So this came out when I was a wee lad. We'll leave it at that. I'll let you do the math on that one. And it is a fantastic book. One of the things that it talks about with Anam Cara, and I'm going to give a loose translation, it means spiritual connection or spiritual friend. So that could be, from my understanding and from reading the book, you can tell by the dog ears, from reading the book as well as the wetness. It's done quite a bit of traveling with me. It's gotten wet along the way. It's the basic idea of a soulmate. Now, I've done quite a bit of spiritual research and reading over the years. It's always been a curious place for me. And we have like the nomenclature, the mainstream view of soulmate, where it means, like I had a life partner for several years. That would be considered like a soulmate in traditional in modern day discussions. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what John is talking about. I feel weird calling him John. That's not what Donahue is talking about. We call him O'Donoghue. That's not what O'Donoghue is talking about. What he's talking about is having a spiritual connection to other people. The roots of that are in friendship, whether it's a life partner or a family member, or what we would call chosen family or traditional friendship. That's the roots of it, is friendship. That's the roots of it. It has to be the roots of it. Otherwise, the roots don't go as deep as we would like them to. We could be attracted to somebody, have them as a lover. We could have a lot of things in common with somebody and be like, oh, okay, I want to spend my life with you, but that's not the same. Just like you might have certain family members that you love them, you guys are cool, it's fine. You have other family members where you're like, no, that's my dog, that's my homie. Yeah, that's family. You might even have friends that are fine, and you have other friends that are like your brother or sister or what have you. I know I certainly do. So there's levels to this, as we used to say. He's talking about the deepest level. What I found amazing about this in reading this book again, thanks again to Colette, is us actually having to process grief through the context of relationship. And I don't mean like breakups, I don't mean anything like that. What I mean is that friendship is part of how we process grief. They are one and the same. My favorite line, and the links to this book as well as my books are all below. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. The links are right below. And you, of course, you support the channel if you end up clicking on it. But I highly recommend this book. Again, I've had a hard time putting it down. And I've traveled overseas and all over the place. And I've been at the pool. And because I told you I'm in Vegas, it's hot, all that stuff. And Again, that's why this thing is so wrinkled. Highly recommend this book. All the links are below. One of my favorite lines, and we'll end with a quote from the book, but my favorite line so far from the book, and I'm taking my time reading it, is here we go. Suddenly it's turned into book hour. Told you I come from a literary background. Like we can do this all day. All right. Excuse me. Regularly through conversations in Gaelic, which is the language of, probably like a predecessor to Celtic language, there is explicit recognition that the divine is present in others. This presence is also recognized and embodied in old sayings such as, quote, the hand of a stranger is the hand of God, unquote. Again, we're not getting religious. Just think about it like the universe if that's not how you want to run with it. But here's the line: the stranger does not come accidentally. He brings a particular gift and illumination. The stranger does not come accidentally. He brings a particular gift and illumination. Here's why that messes with me in the best way possible. In other words, there's no coincidence that we're hanging out right now. If you're watching this, that's not a coincidence. If you meet someone abroad, as I did with Colette, who, we connected, we got along really well. She sent me the book. Thank you, Colette. That was just at the top of the year when I was abroad. Not a coincidence. I love this line from Kendrick Lamar. It's not even a line, it's the name of one of his songs. It's called United in Grief. It's on Miss Morale and the Big Steppers, which came out right when the pandemic was ravaging all of us. So I want to say 2022, a few years ago. Heavy listen. But one of the things that I think it pulls on, as is, Mr. O'Donoghue's wonderful line right there, that strangers aren't really strangers, they have a particular illumination or gift, is that we are united in grief. I've lost loved ones at crushing stuff that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, as my grandmother would say. I wouldn't, even people I dislike, I wouldn't wish this on them. That level of pain, again, I don't wish that for you. But when I was open about the pain that I was going through in my trusted circles, not just talk about it on the show, but in my trusted circles, they were like, that happened to me too. I'm like, no, it didn't. Yes, it happened to me a few years ago. And then we both start crying. Happened, man, I'm about to start crying right now. Happened 2, 3 times minimum. Folks that have been in my life that I was cool with, that I was close to, and I'm like, yeah, having a hard time. This is what's happening. And they're like, I'm so sorry that happened to me. And it was recent. And I was like, what? But here's the amazing part about that, which was the insight. Number one, us being united in grief. So if you're in a particular road, chances are that other people, even other people that you love, other people that are in your circle, have been on a similar road. So having that level of vulnerability, having the people that will support you, having honest conversations, particularly us as guys in the heteronormative American culture, but perhaps you can relate to it in whatever culture you're from, particularly as men of color. Yeah, we got a lot of issues when it comes to vulnerability. If you look at our past with African Americans here in America, you can understand why we have some of those issues. But I digress. If you're able to create that network and connect with other people, you'll realize that you're not alone. And as Brene Brown says, light is a disinfectant to shame. That's the funny thing about grief is that even though it might not be our fault, We still feel shame over that overwhelm and maybe even think we could have done something when in a lot of cases we could not have. Again, it's the wheel of fortune. So, number one, when you connect with others, you recognize that you're united in grief. You're not isolated, you're not alone. And a lot of folks that give up on life and give up on living life as far as actually living their best life, and even just metaphorically giving up on life. A lot of those issues, based on research, comes from people feeling like they're the only ones in that situation. That is simply not true. So one of the reasons why I started this show. Right. So number one, we're all united in grief. The second part about it, and this bugged me out, excuse me, with one of the hard times that I was having um, a few years ago that I was talking about and connected with some of the people that I really care about, and they're like, I went through the same thing. And then we talked about it. They started crying. They already went through it. So in supporting me and giving a broad shoulder to cry on, quite literally, in some of those cases we were in person, they recognized there was a level of healing they hadn't done yet. So they weren't just the one bearing gifts to give grace and love and understanding to me. Me accepting their grace and love and understanding healed them. That's why this line from this wonderful book, as in there's no stranger. And it could be a YouTube or a Twitch or a LinkedIn comment. It could be someone that you run into, at the supermarket or wherever you wherever your normal routine is, and you happen to start a conversation and come to find out they are on that path that you're on right now, but they already went through it, conquered it, got the t-shirt, and now they're supporting you, or vice versa. You both are giving to each other because you're united in grief. Of course, it could be something positive, but we're talking about grief today. And that's where we normally need that support from. Anyway, this book is fantastic. Again, it's earmarked to death. Thanks again to Colette. I appreciate you so much over in Ireland. I hope you're doing well. Look forward to catching up with you soon. But yeah, this book, highly recommended. Links are below, again, for all the stuff I'm talking about. And yeah, let me know if you experience that with a stranger or with someone that you already knew and you were pleasantly surprised. I know pleasant is the word, but you were surprised that, yeah, they understood what you were going through. One of the advantages of having a show for the past 5.5 years as of us being live right now is that there's an archive. There's an archive. There's episode 455. So there's 454 episodes before this. And with the comments that you've sent in, we've had some lively conversations out here, particularly the live ones. Um, with the recorded ones, and there's a great archive of all the different comments and discussions we've had, particularly with like the Brene Brown videos and stuff like that. We've gone really deep. This is one of those videos. Mastering Grief: Three Powerful Life-Changing Techniques. Episode 154. So you can imagine this is probably about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and was a lot of transition at the time. One of my main mentors had passed away. She was very sick, and she had passed away. And so I did this video as far as not only a dedication to her. Shout out to Jane Briggs Bunning. I miss you. You're always here. But not only a dedication to Jane, but also with the three ways that I was processing her death. And everything kind of dies. We're not gonna get out of this alive. So any techniques that you can gain as far as mastering grief, and I mean mastering in air quotes, I'd say take them. So you might watch that half an hour, 45-minute video and get like one gem. That might save your behind later. That's why I'm always reading the books. That's why, there's like a fraction of the books I own. That's why I'm always, for y'all that are fellow creators, that's why I'm always listening to what y'all are doing as coaches and keynoters, fellow TED speakers, and all that. That's why I'm taking it all in because you never know what gem will get you through a rough day. Anyway, that's a good video to watch after this. If you're watching this on YouTube, particularly in the rerun, you'll see a link in the corner above my big head or whatever to it briefly. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, even after we wrap up this live in a few minutes. And I'm always in the comments, always discussing things. And I look at this as the beginning of a conversation, as I often say with my keynotes or when I have events. Excuse me, is that the highlight isn't me. The highlight is me setting the table, and the highlight is really the discussions that come after that. So I believe in that 100%. So if you happen to not catch this live, feel free to jump in the comments on any of the platforms, and I'm happy to jump in and discuss things with you with some of the stuff things we discuss today. And I wanted to end with a very 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 short passage. I'm talking 1 minute long from Anam, and that fits very much what energy is today. It's called a friendship blessing. May you be blessed with good friends. May you learn to be a good friend to yourself. May you be able to journey to that place in your soul where there is great love, warmth, feeling, and forgiveness. May this change you. May it transfigure that which is negative, distant, or cold in you. May you be brought into the real passion, kinship, and affinity of belonging. May you treasure your friends. May you be good to them, and may you be there for them. May they bring you all the blessings, challenges, truth, and light that you need for your journey. May you never be isolated. May you always be in the gentle nest of belonging with your Anam Cara. Thanks for hanging out today. Again, a good video after this would be Mastering Grief, 3 Powerful Life Changing Techniques. My name is Damon Brown. I hang out with you on Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I'm an entrepreneurial coach helping you through your side hustles, your solopreneurship, because I've been on some of those paths too. And ideally helping you with whatever grief you might be processing today or in the future. Until next time, remember you can always bring your worth, you can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.